started back.
Camera too?
Yeah.
The initial training that I got from my grandfather and my father started back when I was about 4 years old. My grandfather had taken me to his camp up in the Notak Valley when I was about 4 years old, and I spent the spring with him. And that was when I first remembered shooting a rifle. I shot a .22 rifle which he had sawed the stock off because my arms were too short. And I got 4 muskrats that summer. And from then on I remember following either my dad or my grandfather when they went hunting. My dad had told us also that his training had come from both his father and his grandfather. As we got a little bit older, me and my 2 older brothers, when they started to hunt seals and beluga and the uruks that we get here in the Kotzebue Sound, they'd take either 2 of us or 1 of us at a time on the boat when they went out to hunt, because they needed 1 of us to stay on the boat and watch the boat when they were getting on top of the ice to trying to spot the seals and do little odd chores in the boat, like making coffee and staying awake when they're sleeping. But it was all part of our training, which me and my brother are starting to train our 2 older boys the same thing. We're taking them out when we go hunt or when we go fishing. Some of the things that they had taught us out on the spot, you can call it on-the-job training. Probably that's what it's normally called now. Except we were out hunting for food for the rest of the family. And they taught us to watch for certain types of game, how they react in water, to check the depth of the water that we're in, or the currents, constantly watch the weather, the cloud formations, fog coming in, or when we get caught out in the ice and we have to come back to shore, we'd either make up our mind to stay till the fog lifts, or in some cases we just went right with the fog and always came back. But they had taught us some things that they learned themselves in traveling through fog, like keeping track of the sun and keep yourself in position with land. They taught us how to sneak up on game, on the seals and the uruks on the ice, how to catch a seal when it's laying on the ice and putting it back to sleep if it raises its head to see what's going on, and to go in for the kill, and then to dress the seals out there, the uruks out in the ice, so that we can take them back, or take the guts off out in the ice and save certain parts for food. And then we'd bring them back to the land, and then the women folk would start cutting them up and putting them away. They'd dry them and cook them and put them away in seal oil for winter use. And in beluga hunting, it's kind of a tricky thing. A lot of people call it luck and some skill, but I think it's mostly training that a person can show that he knows what he's doing out there when he's hunting beluga. Especially when we've already chased a beluga, or herd a beluga to shallow water, is when the fun part comes, when you start to go in for the kill. If you don't know what you're doing out there, the beluga can easily go under your boat and go get away into deeper water. Whether you watch the water formations that it's swimming underwater, or watch the little whirlpools of water when it wags it, or when its stripper starts to move, while it's moving, you can follow a beluga like that. But we usually went up to a beluga and speared it, and then shot it. But nowadays they're shooting them first and then spearing them. Right? It doesn't make any difference now to me and my brother. We can do it either way. We can chase the beluga and shoot it from the boat and then spear it, or we can spear it first and then chase the beluga and shoot it. We've done both already.
How about the ugu?
The ugruks, we normally try to catch them out while they're sleeping on the ice, or when they're basking on the ice. It's easier to get up closer to them by running your boat real slow. You can get quite close to them before they can hear the sound of the evenwood and then dive into the water. But there again, you've got to shoot the ugruk right on the neck to catch the spine where it joins the head and the backbone. Because there, when you shoot them there, it paralyzes the ugruk and it dies on the spot. If you hit it on the head, up on the brain, then you just knock it out, but it can still move the rest of its body because the muscles can still move and it'll fall off into the water. But if you shoot it right on the neck, it'll die right on the spot and it won't move another muscle. You can get it then. But sometimes you gotta get right to it right away and then turn it over on its back so it can't roll. Once you do that, then the ugruk is just as good as dead and you've got it. If you can turn it over on its back, it won't flop itself to the water.
You said something about putting them back to sleep. How do you do it?
When you're crawling to them, they usually had a stick with the claws from a seal tied onto the stick. So when the ugruk lifts his head to see and you scratch on the ice, make that scratching sound.
Continuously, or you
no, either way, not continuously. Just scratch it a couple times, stop, and then scratch it again. But he'll hear it, and then he'll start to nod his head and go back to sleep. Then you can go on closer until it goes up again. And normally we wear a white calico party on them when we're sleeping because it blends with the ice and the ugruk can't see it.
Same way with seals, eh?
Same way with seals, yeah. You can do the same thing with seals, but we normally don't try to hunt seals this time of the year during the season that we're hunting belugas and ugruks, unless we go after the seals for the seal oil or the skin for the coats to store the rest of the food in.
Now you were talking about before they started using outboard motors and so forth, when they used to go out and hunt in kayak, how'd they make them float?
My dad had told me about hunting with a kayak. It's a one-man boat that they used, and he'd shoot an ugruk. Then he'd always have little pieces of wood in his kayak so he can make a plug where he shot the ugruk, and he'd plug the hole, and then he'd blow it up first, and then tie it tightly around the neck so the air don't come out, and then he'd blow air into the lungs first before he'd tie it, so the ugruk would have air in it. Then he'd plug the holes where he shot it with the pieces of the stick. That way the ugruk wouldn't sink, it would just float. Then he'd just tie it on and just start dragging it towards shore.
And float it onto shore.
Yeah, bring it all the way into the shore.
How many can they drag that way?
He told me, this is my dad here, he told me he had dragged 4 at one time with a kayak, but it took him a long time. It was a slow process of dragging that thing, just paddling by yourself. After we'd gotten a little bit older and a little bit on with our training from our grandfather, we started following our dad, but our grandfather was one that really started training us when we were youngest, when we were younger, because part of the tradition, I think, that the younger people had learned from the older folks, the grandparents.
How about your clothing? What kind of clothing?
We've got to have warm clothing out there. It's cold out there in the ice. You can get, it's almost like winter time out there. It's really cold. Unless the sun is shining. Right after we get the game and we put them in position on the beach where the women can get at them, then it's up to them to cut it up put it on the racks, put the seal oil away, do whatever they need to do with the meat or the mukta from the beluga. And if there's other people that are helping, when we bring something in, and for instance, if my mother or my wife or my grandmother, if they're not enough, we don't think they can get the job done in time, we'll send some of the little kids out to get some more help. Then when all the work is already done, it's all cut up and up on the racks, then it's divided. Or it's divided before it's put on a rack so that people can take theirs home whole. And they get a piece of whatever that is done, whatever is cut up, or whatever they want. And it's usually up to, we leave that up to my mom or my wife to determine how much they get.
The first beluga of the season.
Oh, the first
seal.
The first seal or whatever you get, if you're a little boy, if you're first learning how to hunt, they take that up, they take it to shore, and then they cut it up into pieces and they divide it up to all the old people. In fact, the family doesn't get any. It's divided up and brought to all the older people and given away, saying that this is his first seal or his first ugruk or his first beluga, and it's all given away.
And then after that, the first beluga of the season, usually anybody can come.
The first beluga of the season usually is divided up out in the ice or wherever they get it to the hunters, or anybody can come and get some. Traditionally it's been like that.
Even with the seal and the fish and everything.
Some of the other training that we went through, we can show you on the spot out in the ice. The things to watch for on the weather and the water, the currents, the ice. We'll show them on the spot where the ice starts, what to do when the ice starts to come close or when it starts to go.
The reflex stuff.
This is a picture of my grandfather here. His name was Charlie Goodwin. He passed away in 1971, but I remember when he first started taking me out. And this is a picture of my dad, and he passed away last fall hunting caribou, where he was always out hunting all the time. Whenever he got a chance, he was out.
He fed a lot of people.
He fed a lot of people, that's right.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories of what he's given away, and I'll tell you one thing, we never got hungry when we were kids. We always had something to eat in the house.
Like they always say, a generous wife makes a successful husband, successful hunter.
Right.
Yep.
That's another thing that my grandfather and my father had taught us, is that always give. And when you're out hunting, don't worry about your gas, don't worry about your shells. Just take it as they come. And if you run out of gas, you run out of gas. Especially when you're hunting beluga or ugruks. When you're out there and you start to worry about your gas, they say it's hard to come across the game when you start to worry about little things. Or if you don't care when you're out there whether or not you run out of gas, or if you give it away out there or whatever, then the game will come to you.
Got to be in a good frame of mind, good generous frame of mind, and the animals will be generous too.
We were taught to give, all of us were taught to give, especially to the poor people or the people that can't go out and hunt. Widows, especially, we give to them, widows, or those people without a father, the kids without a father, or without parents. We were taught to always give them something to eat when they're hungry. And to the old people, we always gave to the old people. the rest of the stuff, I think we can catch you out in the ice.
Okay.
We can show you all the out.
For you guys when you come up, so
So we can come up and then go over it and then push back out and come back in.
yeah.
It won't be
Yeah.
hard for us to run.
Are we on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My name is Rachel Craig. I'm from Kotzebue, born and raised here, and working on our cultural heritage preservation for Nana. And with me here is Willie Goodwin, who's in charge of the land department. And he's going to tell us some of the training that he received as a boy, as a young man, preparing himself for hunting, which is the way of life of our people here. Now, Willie, where'd your grandfather come from, Charlie Goodwin?
My grandfather was born in Selwick, but he although he spent a lot of time up in Selwick, he moved here and there and living in different parts of northwest Alaska.
How about your dad?
My dad was also born in Selwick, but he also moved around too.
So in their training, their part of the training, they learned to hunt both on land and sea coast.
Yeah, that's the way that they taught us too, me and my brothers, and that's the way I'm teaching my little boy.
How about your grandma? Where'd she come from?
My grandma was born in Norvik, the site, the village that's called Norvik now in the Kotzebue River, but she grew up in different parts of Alaska. She grew up mainly when she was a young teenager over in Nome area, in the mining camps.
Okay, he's talking mainly about his father's side, now about your mother's side.
And from my mother's side, my grandfather's name was Yayuk Harris, and he was from this area here, and his wife Ruth also was from this area. They were from the people we call the original Kotzebue people. They're one of them.
Yeah, his grandparents and my grandparents are close, and we're kind of remnants of the original Kotzebue people. Very few of them left here because so many of the other people have moved in from other villages. But subsistence living, what we call subsistence living here, is our people fishing still out in camps and hunting seal, beluga, ubruk, caribou, whatever is in season. And it's not just sport hunting, it's hunting and looking for the animals, literally hunting, so you can bring home food for the family, because there's not that much money, economy, or wages in the village, and hunting is still necessary. And besides, in most cases, it's preferred, because this is the kind of food that they have grown up on and used to eating. So chicken is good once in a while, hamburger is good once in a while, but to them, caribou and the seafood and the fish is better than we think so.
Okay. I gave him a pen.
My grandfather,
Families down there, they have a big igloo, big one, and then there's another one across here, because they used to have a in the center, and then on the other side the family.
Mom, I better get some water and things like that. I know by the time we start talking, you'll get thirsty.
So how they John Hensley?
Oh, that's what.
Yeah.
That's who it is. Then.
Yeah. You should hear him
Oh,
sing.
that-
Wow.
I'll tell you he's brother,
Yeah.
and then they were from,
I gotta come here and finish our family tree.
You and Ted.
Yeah.
Ted's working on it too.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch from Emma while she was here. But I didn't get Siamese line, you know?
Siamese, Papa's first wife,
Yeah.
You mean Surimi Lincoln or Surimi other one?
Siamese.
William.
No, that
Mills.
was Papa's first wife,
Yeah.
mother to Woody Williams and Fanny. Fanny is the oldest. And
Yeah,
then
I need to get her parents and stuff, you know, her family tree. That's the only one I'm
And
missing.
then when Papa get Mama, Emma is the oldest.
I always exaggerate and say my grandpa married 6 times. He was only married 3 times, huh? And I say that's why we have so many relatives.
He's
But you should have said, but just one at a time.
His third wife drowned down in Akulaka.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that part.
That thing has traveled a long way. It went to Pennsylvania, and it was in the Sunday section of the Enquirer, Philadelphia Enquirer. Saying what
are we
a
on?
well-dressed Eskimo wears in Kotzebue.
Right.
That's the
Anytime
Sunday
now.
go to meeting kind
Okay.
of part.
All right.
All right. Mom, we're going to start, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm Grace Lincoln, and I'm from Kotzebue. My Eskimo name is Kunasiluk Talangnakto Nasuk. And this is my mother, and she's from a long line of Kotzebue people from the Nana region. And she was, well, her name is Blanche Rose Lincoln, but she was formerly a Mills girl. Whenever I travel anywhere, and I travel an awful lot with the work that I'm doing now, people stop me and ask me if I'm a Mills girl, and I have to double think, and I say, well, yes, I am a Mills girl. Mom, why don't you tell them about your family background? Or I didn't know that we were all from Kotzebue.
Papa is he was here in Kotzebue all the time. When people go any place in the fall time for the winter, they had to stay here all the time. Big families, he had 2 wives, because I'm not ashamed of my grandpa, because he had only 2 wives, yeah, and then big family there.
That was the custom.
Yes, that's what
The time when they had 2 wives was that they could afford it.
Yeah. They have to make a hole right on the bay out here and then hook. That's how they always had tomcat and seal. Papa had to hunt seals, and people had to come down from Norwich, from Norfolk when their parents starved. The kids had to come down and try to have a little something to eat from Grandpa. He welcomed them and raised them. So many of them, like Panera, Shell, from Norwich, I mean from Axik anyway.
Nalikat ko to na
Nalikat, yeah, there were 5 of them, only 1 girl. Nalikat, Panna, and then Halut, and then in Masulukichi, I forgot the name of only Kilor, their only girl. Their parents starved up at Axik, and
Where's Aksik?
Axik below Kayan,
And
above
that was where the Norvik people lived before they moved to Norvik.
yeah,
Before the Deering people moved up there, and the Uxik people moved to Norvik with them around
You know
1914.
the time when they were moving, we were down at below Rallywick, on that little hill where the winter came to spring. And then they passed through this time right now, before it's getting too rough. On the first ice break, they had to go up 1914, and then they always say 1915 they go up. And then I said, I really remember, because we were down at the reindeer camp the time when they passed. Mrs. Replogal come over to me and wanted to little something and talk to me, because I could talk a little English. And then I remember everything, only you know, Hannah Newland, Papa, he can ride in the boat. Sees it all the time.
Was he the one that walked?
That's the one that
Yeah,
walked.
yeah.
All the way when they go across from Deering to whatever they call this, Singing. They call it Singing.
Shady Creek? Or?
No,
No, Singing.
where the Mendenhall and Kent.
It's on the peninsula down a ways, not
There's
too
the
far
island,
from Riley
that's the
River.
one right here. Island down here and Jamaica Island, and then Elephant Point they used to call it. They had to cross, and then he had to walk all the way from
He ride the boat from Singing across to the peninsula and then walk the rest of the way, huh?
Yeah, to Kotzebue. And then they had to go up. But I think the time 1914, those two men from Deering, Kayak Rock, and one of the could go up on it. They died there. The first one, they buried them behind that big lake up here. That's the first one, 1914.
Which big lake? Back.
That's the one right in that rock one. Makipisiu behind. I mean, that's the one have no more water right now. Cemeteries.
You remember that where we used to play in the kayaks?
Yeah, where we used to ice skate too.
Those are the two first ones had to bury up there. Because they used to have it around here, right by the church. Long ago.
So they were the first ones in the new burial site, huh?
1908, at the time, Mr. Gary, James Gary was a teacher, and he let all the Kayana, Kobak, Salvik people when they come down here, he let them get all them skeletons, all them.
All the skeletons from the tundra.
Make long trains and then dump them in there. They never tried to take anything, even beat, ulu, ikun, whatever the woman have, and the man have his own. They buried, they put them in their back. They never buried them in the ground before. So many all over. At the time, 1908, planning storm. We couldn't go across from the south. Running away all the time. Finally, they have to go up to North River behind, and then planning storm.
When they were gathering the skeletons, huh?
Yeah.
That's an old legend too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whenever you unlet the bones of the dead,
whenever
you
you
always
handle a grave.
Right.
Yeah,
You always have bad weather.
Yeah, same way with grandma down there, Mama's grandmother. Mother Soup, her name was. The boys had to put the head right on the willow. She's getting so stormy. Done stealing points that time. They couldn't hunt no seals, nothing, because it stormed so much. Finally, our parents never let us sleep good. They said, maybe you could handle some of the bones someplace. Yeah, not us, them boys. I was sleeping. Papa waked me so many times. Not us girls, only them boys. They put the head on the willow. Break the willow and then put the thing up. They wake us all up and then want us to go back and put that in the same place that the head after. That was our great grandma. So look her name was.
Where was this?
Down at Stealing Point. You know those Illuminati park? You on that, around there. Around there, inside the village, because the village was growing. Oh no. We didn't know finally, we find out later. The same way here. So they had all the people down at Sealing Point hunting rook and seal, they had to go by the North River and go across to Pike, pick up that from mouth of Nortec.
Because you couldn't come across
No.
this way.
And
Too
it's
stormy, yeah.
rough all the time.
Yeah.
So we have only this much, so much load, okra and dried meat, okra, skin and everything. Just that much from the top to here. I used to measure it. The Papa had to call feed vessel Nangarin. I'm not what her name? Karuna. Karuna. You're home. He always called her. You're home. His niece. Where's your okra Karuna mo sa
Your sail oil pot.
Sail oil. Crocodile, something pot. Yeah. And then she put a little oil on top of the water. It's getting smooth. Can go into the water. So we go to Blackfeet that way.
On the spot, you can call it on the job training. Probably that's what it's normally called now. Except we were out hunting for food for the rest of the family. And they taught us to watch for certain types of game, how they react in water, to check the depth of the water that we're in, or the currents, constantly watch the weather, the cloud formations, fog coming in. Well, when we get caught, I remember following either my dad or my grandfather when they went hunting. My dad had told us also that his training had come from both his father and his grandfather. As we got a little bit older, me and my two older brothers, when they started to hunt seals and beluga and the uruks that we get here in the Kotzebue Sound, they'd take either two of us or one of us started back.
Camera too?
Yeah.
The initial training that I got from my grandfather and my father started back when I was about 4 years old. My grandfather had taken me to his camp up in the Notak Valley when I was about 4 years old, and I spent the spring with him. And that was when I first remembered shooting a rifle. I shot a .22 rifle which he had sawed the stock off because my arms were too short. And I got 4 muskrats that summer. And from then I was at a time on the boat when they went out to hunt, because they needed one of us to stay on the boat and watch the boat when they were getting on top of the ice trying to spot the seals and do little odd chores in the boat, like making coffee and staying awake when they're sleeping. But it was all part of our training, which me and my brother are starting to train our 2 older boys the same thing. We're taking them out when we go hunt or when we go fishing. Some of the things that they had taught us out in the ice, and we have to come back to shore, we'd either make up our mind to stay till the fog lifts, or in some cases we just went right with the fog and always came back. But they had taught us some things that they learned themselves in traveling through fog, like keeping track of the sun and keep yourself in position with land. They taught us how to sneak up on game, on the seals and the uruks on the ice,